Hello, and welcome to one more week of Code Along with Joe Skeen. Last week we started on the Angular Tour of Heroes, and this week we're going to see if we can finish that off. So, go ahead and open back up your Tour of Heroes and get back into the tutorial here. Let's see, we completed the Hero Editor and the Master Detail, I believe. Yeah, we did that part there. Excuse me. We did the onSelect. We did the ngIf. I believe this is the point we were at. So if you guys remember from last week, to start this, you can use either ngserve or npm start. npm start just calls ngserve, so that works. And any second now, that should finish. Probably should disable some things before I get too much further into this so we don't have too much CPU load, which will take down the stream. Unless it already did. Okay, looks like YouTube's a little behind, but it's still there. Good. Okay, so remember we've got our app running on localhost 4200. We can just go ahead and having some issues with Edge this morning. Maybe I'll switch to Chrome. And there we are. There's our Tour of Heroes. We've got that going on there. Okay, let's go ahead and dock this over here. Stick our code over here so we can see a nice output as we go along here. And I'm going to create a new window here to put our Tour of Heroes docs on here. Angular.io. Get started, tutorial, and I think we might be in multiple components now. I'll just move that off to the side. I'm sure you're following along in your own browser. Okay, so we have a master detail view here, where if you click on one of these, we've got a detail up here. If we look at our app component HTML, this is our detail, and this is our master right here. But it's all kind of munched into a single component. So the next step, under step 4, multiple components, we're going to be separating these out into their own components. Okay, so first of all, we're going to create a hero component. Now, in the walkthrough on the Tour of Heroes online, it just suggests creating these different files and putting them in the folder and all that stuff. But since we're using the Angular CLI, we can do something a little bit easier. So we're in the Tour of Heroes folder, the root of the folder. And we can say ng generate component. We're going to call it hero detail. So, as you see, we have app/hero detail. Now we have a hero detail component.css, HTML, spec, and TS. We didn't have to wire any of that up. It's just already there. Way to go, Angular CLI. And see, it's already wired up our template URL, the style URLs. We can just go ahead and start coding on this. Pretty awesome. Okay, so let's see, we've got the app hero detail. Let's just take that app part off and just make it hero detail. Okay, so things are still working the same because we haven't made any changes yet. Just to confirm, I want to make sure it actually put it into the module. Yep, it did. Look at that. Wired up our module and everything for us. Thank you, Angular CLI. Okay, so all we have to do now is just stick our the part of the template here that has to do with the selected hero, stick that into our hero detail template. So I can just cut, and let's go into hero detail and stick this here. Now, of course, that's not going to work yet because we don't have selected hero, right? See, it's complaining because I have the Angular language service enabled, which apparently needs to be updated. And it's like, wait a minute, there isn't any selected hero on your component. And that's true. So let's go ahead and define that. We're not going to do selected hero because in this particular component, it's just one hero. There's no concept of selecting a hero. So we're just going to call it hero, and it's of type hero. Now, did we define a hero class already? Let's see. Yes, there is a hero, but that is defined here. So we're going to have to import it. And for now, I think this may change in the future, or at least I will insist it changes. I don't really like components referencing each other directly. I think it seems a little bit weird. But for now, we'll do it. So we're going to import, and the path is going to be /app.component. And what we're going to import here is hero. And now it knows what hero is. It's happy. Now, since we're just doing hero here, we'll have to change our component to just do hero instead of selected hero, which makes enough sense. And there we go. That should work. Except for now, we've broken this because the hero detail doesn't really exist anymore in that particular component. At this point in the walkthrough, it actually suggests you put hero in its own file, which I can agree with. Let's go ahead and do that. Hero.ts. This is kind of a model file, so it doesn't need a whole lot of extra stuff in it. You can just move this out, put it here, and then up here we're going to have to import that new file, import from /hero. There we go. And we'll have to change in the hero detail component TS. It's not an app component anymore, it's /hero. Now I feel a lot better about that already. Okay. And so now what we need to do is somehow be able to get this hero put into the hero detail. Right now, there's no way to assign that in there. Well, let's just do this first. Hero detail. But, oops. As you can see here, the Angular language service told me about hero detail, but I'm not seeing hero. Email max length, ng class. There's nothing about hero. And why is that? We do have a hero defined here. Why doesn't it know about it? So what we need to do is, in order for Angular to know that things outside can assign into this, we need to mark this as an input property. So we go over and input. Input is also from Angular core. And so far we've only seen this decorator here, the component, which basically is metadata about this component. Now we're going to add some metadata to this to tell it that other things can assign into it. Input. So now if we go back to app module or app component HTML, it should recognize hero. See that? And remember, the square brackets here mean that we're going to assign down into it. It's not going to come back out of it. And selected hero does still exist on the app component, so we can assign that into there. Let's see what happens now. Hey, look at that. It's fixed again. Awesome. So we've got our master view, we've got our detail view. Everything's working as components now. Pretty awesome. Okay, let's see what's next. So we did the input. Yep, and that's all that's in our class. And you can delete the other stuff that's in there, the onInit and the constructor if you'd like. You just have to remove the, let's see here. Hero detail component. Oh, that's a test. Yeah, so you don't need the onInit if you don't want it. We're not loading any data or anything like that, so we can chop that off. And that's our entire component right there. Short, sweet, to the point. Alright, let's see what's next. Now it looks good, except for we did it even better with it in its own file. Awesome. We already declared it in the app module because Angular CLI is awesome. And we added that there. Right here, they've moved the hero detail to the bottom. I kind of still like it at the top, so if the list is really long, you don't have to scroll all the way to the bottom to see, excuse me, the detail. Okay, looks like we're all done with that. That wasn't too bad. Alright, now we're going to talk about services. So up until this point, we have just kind of hard-coded our data. If you remember, when we go back to our app component, we have a constant list of heroes. And while this is convenient for coding, it's not very useful for a full-fledged app. what we'd want to do is be able to fetch these heroes from some kind of data source. And so if that data source changes and we're able to fetch them, we'll get the correct results. So right now we've kind of got this hard-coded list. Let's get started into services. So I hope you've opened your Tour of Heroes tutorial, step 5, services. Okay, and we still should have everything running. Let's create a hero service. Now in Angular, services are usually are basically things that deal with external data, whether it be a database or a web service call or cookies or other things like that, where you want to keep your component controllers basically as agnostic to the data source as possible. That makes it a lot easier when you want to do testing. So services kind of end up being that glue that hooks you up to these external things. And we're going to create a hero service. This is going to call hero. Actually, let's see if we can just generate one. I'm all about the Angular CLI. Let's see. ng generate service hero. Hey, look at that. Hero.service, hero.service.spec.ts. And, we've already got everything we need. So basically, instead of having component like we've had so far, we have this injectable decorator. This just basically tells Angular, or well, it really tells TypeScript that we're going to use metadata on this class, which makes it possible for Angular to read that metadata and make it possible to inject into our components. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but for now, this is basically the minimum you need for a service. All right, so let's see. We've shortcutted a lot of this by going through the Angular CLI. We don't have to do that, blah, blah, blah. We've already got this. Okay, we're happy here. Okay, so now we actually have to define a way of getting heroes. So as I was saying, we don't want to have hard-coded heroes like we have here. So we want to define a function on this that will allow us to fetch this collection here. So if we're going to be dealing with heroes, we should probably import them from /hero and hero. Perfect. Now we're going to probably don't need a constructor right now. I'll comment that out for a minute. Okay, so our function that we're going to be doing is, we'll call it get heroes. It's probably ES, yes. And what do we want to return? Do we really want to return a void? Probably not. We probably will want to return something like a hero array or something, right? That would make sense. Get heroes, returns a hero array. Well, let's switch it back to void for a minute. Just think about that, and I will show you a little bit in a minute what's going to be going on here. Okay, so first of all, let's take that nasty hard-coded constant out of the app component. And now it's going to be like, what? We're going to have to import our hero service. Import from hero, hero.service. I always have to remember that /, because if it's not /, then you what it'll do is it'll try looking for it in your npm dependencies, and that's not what you want. You want it to look locally. Hero service. Okay, we'll leave that broken for just a second. It suggests at this point to go ahead and create a mock heroes.ts. And we're going to need hero. And we're going to import hero. Now, all we have to do here is export this. That was pretty easy. So now we can import that symbol from other files. The fact that this is a mock heroes should tell you that this won't be running in real time. This is more for testing. So let's see what we got here. Okay, heroes constants exported. Yep. Okay, so going back to our app component, remember how we just assigned that directly? Probably be better if we just defined what type we expect it to be, hero array. Okay, so now it's not broken, but it's, well, not really doing anything anymore. We have to be able to get that, get those heroes from it. So for now, let's just get started by hard coding or wiring our hero service to that hard-coded array. So we're going to return a hero array. We have to import that. Import from mock heroes. Okay, so we can just say return heroes, and of course we have to actually call this. So the way that you get, we could just new up a hero service here and say, you know, in our constructor, we're just gonna say new hero service dot get heroes and assign that to this dot heroes. But this is not the way you want to do it, and it'll work. Oh, hold on. Type void is not assignable to hero array. Interesting, because I'm pretty sure that is hero array. Let's look at this a little bit closer. App component TS 16.5. Yeah, that's really weird. There we go. Something got weird there. Okay, so anyway, this works, and we're back to where we were, but we've kind of defeated the whole purpose of one of the most powerful things about Angular, and that is its dependency injection. If I wanted to go and test this, I wouldn't want, I mean, I don't know where this get heroes is getting its data. Well, obviously I do because I just made it. But if this were something that was like calling across the network or something like that, and I wanted to test this component, I wouldn't be able to test it without dealing with that component, or with the network, because we've newed it up right here in line. And so there's no way to inject our own fake version of that in. So this is where dependency injection comes in. Basically, whenever you're seeing the new keyword, that's usually a good indication that you should be using dependency injection. Not always, but very, very frequently, especially with services and things like that. Now, remember how we, on our hero service, we put this injectable? That allows us to inject it into other things. So let's go ahead and inject that into here. So we've imported hero service. We can say, excuse me, we're going to make a private variable called hero service of type hero service. And so Angular, when it constructs our component, it will be like, oh, this requires a hero service. I know how to create one of those, and it will give us an instance of that. So now we could do hero service.getHeroes. And I guess I jumped a little bit ahead. This will work. If we reload, maybe it won't work. Let's take a look. No provider for hero service. Interesting. Let's take a look at our app module. And for sure, we do not have our hero service declared in there. Let's go ahead and declare that. Import from hero.service. So in addition to marking it as injectable, you also have to wire it up with the module, which makes it possible to have different things with the same name, but only import the ones you care about. So under providers, we can do hero service. I believe that's how it works there, and there we are. It's working. So this will work, as I said, but if there's anything going on here that is potentially taking more time, like network calls or thread processing, stuff like that, you don't want to have that in the middle of your constructor. Angular has created a special hook for loading data, and it's called onInit. So we add onInit here, and we'll say implements onInit. Now, obviously we're not implementing it, and that's why it's giving us a little red squiggly. But that's all that it is we basically give it a function to call when it's ready to load data. And that's really where this belongs. And that's why I originally said, let's make this a private variable. Because even though we're only using it in one place, we need to be able to access it outside of the constructor. So basically this is just shorthand for this. We say hero service this dot hero service equals hero service. I don't know why that ended up getting capitalized, but basically, there we go. So this is the same, it works, but TypeScript has introduced a shorthand for that where you don't have to actually do all that and just say, you know what, this constructor parameter, it's just meant to be a private variable on the class. It will automatically take care of all that for you. So, pretty cool. We've gotten this wired up through the service. Now we're in business. All right, let's see if there's anything else on this section that we want to talk about. So we imported the hero service. We tried that, but decided that wasn't a good idea. We injected it using the private. We added it to the list of providers. We did this in the onInit. Yes, there's onInit. Okay. Now, this is what we want to do because, as I said, you didn't want to really stick with the mock heroes. We want to be able to get some from the internet somewhere. So what we want to do instead is return something else. We don't want to, whoops, there we are. We don't want to return these right away. We can return a promise of type HeroArray. Now, promises is something that is relatively new to the JavaScript spec. It was introduced in ECMAScript 2015. But this basically says, I will get you something of this type, but you're going to have to wait for it because we have some things that we need to do to be able to get it, like call across the network or do some processing that could take a little while. So by changing this from HeroArray to promise of HeroArray, this is basically saying, when you call me, I'll give you something back that will allow you to get the value when it's ready. A future object, if you will. Going back to our app component, of course, this isn't going to work because this is a HeroArray, and we've got a promise coming back here. So what we're going to have to change this to is we do the call, and promises expose a .then, so that you can say when this finally resolves, it's going to pass in some heroes, and we're going to assign this .heroes equals heroes. So basically we're saying this is the callback that will be called when the heroes load, and what we're going to do with it is assign it to this .heroes. Now, does that fix it? Yeah. Why is it not liking it? App heroes service. Oh, yeah. Haha. Okay, so now we have to fix this because heroes is not a promise, but we can say new promise, and we can pass in a resolve callback here. Resolve goes to resolve heroes. And that should fix it. We've got everything working. Another thing you can do is I think you can actually shortcut that promise dot I can't remember. I thought there was a way you could just do it from a value. But anyway, let's see what, promise.resolve. Promise.resolve heroes. So that's the kind of the shortcut for this here that they use in the Tour of Heroes tutorial. Whoops. There, that's the right one. And it works. Okay, so enough of working with this mock data. We probably want to get working with some real live data that we're fetching from some kind of HTTP or something like that. Okay, so they have to get it slow. Okay, let's go ahead and do that first. I do kind of like this exercise. The appendix on section 5, take it slow, suggests kind of simulating a promise that takes 2 seconds to resolve. So you can see how even when things are slow, it doesn't break everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in here. So get heroes slowly. So we're still doing a promise and we're doing the resolve callback, but we're not calling it until after we do a set timeout that will call this function after 2 seconds. So basically, we're doing get heroes, which returns pretty quickly, and there you go. So if we wanted to, we could go switch back here, get heroes slowly, and you'll see it takes some time, but then it finally loads. And the important thing is we're not tying up the UI while we're doing this. Like I can, well, there's really nothing to interact with, but basically it's running on the background, and we don't have to worry about it just kind of freezing while it's loading, which is nice. So that was kind of cool. So that's really why we have promises, is to keep our code running while other things are going on in the background. Okay, let's move on to the next section, which is routing. I hope we can get all the way to HTTP today, because that's really where the magic starts happening. So let's quickly do the routing. So we're now on section 6, routing. I hope you still have this open and following along. So we're going to create a dashboard view and a heroes view. So when someone clicks on, well, let's just add a dashboard view, navigate between heroes and dashboard views. When a user clicks on a hero name in either view, navigate to the detailed view of that selected hero. When users click a deep link in an email, open the detailed view for a particular hero. Ah, this is going to be fun. Okay, so let's get back to here. Action plan. Okay, I'm going to stick this over here, and we're going to get going. Okay, so our app component right now kind of has a bunch of stuff in here, but what we want to do is take all of the stuff out of here into a different component and make this kind of just be a shell for routing between different routes. And when we're talking about routes, we're talking about different URL patterns. So when a certain pattern happens, then we're going to load certain content. Okay, so yeah, it's all about navigation here. All right, so let's go ahead and create a heroes component, because that's what this is doing right now, is it's a list of heroes. We've got a hero detail, and we need to create a heroes component. So let's go ahead and do ng generate component heroes. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to call it. Yep. And now we have heroes, hero component, all very, very nice. And heroes component. We're going to mix this part again. You can have it there, it won't hurt anything, but I kind of like keeping, this is more or less a top level component in our app, and I don't want to deal with the extra prefix there. All right, let's see, heroes component. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to move all the stuff out of app component into heroes component. So cut and paste. Whoa, that did not work. Let's try that again. Cut, there we go, and paste. Okay, we'll have to also grab our imports there. There we go. Now, since this is in a subfolder, we'll have to // Okay. And we're basically back up on that. This doesn't need on init right now, so we'll just remove that. And if we need it later, we will re-add it. Okay, so now our app component is pretty much empty there. We want to put our template into our heroes component. And there we go. Okay, so in the guide it just said, since it's already there, just rename it. But I'm kind of happy to not do it that way. I think the Angular CLI made it really easy to generate all that stuff for us, and copy paste wasn't too bad. Okay, so we have our app component. Let's see what app component is now going to do. So I don't think we have any errors here. Yeah, it's just happily sitting here doing absolutely nothing because our app component now is completely empty. So what do we want to do with this? We want to create some kind of dashboard. So we're going to have some navigation links and a display area. So what we need to do is, we already have all that stuff. Okay, so hero detail, heroes. Oh, they're saying move the title property, which is fair. We'll move that into the app component. And then we'll also need to move the HTML for that over. Guess I got a little overeager moving that stuff. Okay. And stick that into here. So, hey, cool, we got Tour of Heroes back. Great. All right, we have that. Okay, so now let's put our heroes element there. See what that does. Hey, we've got my heroes. That's good. Oh, and we've got that. Perfect. And what I forgot to do, move this stuff into our CSS here. And there we go. Now, I have my sans serif here, but not here. What I probably want to do, instead of just making this be in the host, is put it everywhere. And that's where the site-wide CSS comes into play. We've got our, let's see here, styles.css file. I'm just going to stick that here and make this be body. So everything inside of our HTML should have this style applied, and there we go. I like that font a lot better. Okay, so go ahead and cut that. All right. I think we are back in business. So everything's working just fine. We haven't done any routing yet. Hold on, we're almost there. Now that we've separated things out, we can create a router. So let's see. I'm assuming that they've already imported the router for us. Angular router, cool. So we have that available for us. We'll want to go into our index.html. In order to make our routing work, we have to have this little bit here, which means that when you have a URL that is slash and then something after that, it won't go and ask the server what to do with it. Instead, it will allow Angular to do the navigation and routing all on its own on the client side, which is definitely what we want. Okay, let's configure routes. So we'll need to create a route. Now, you know what's awesome? ng, ng generate route, and we're going to call it, I've never actually done this one. This will be interesting to try. Heroes. Uh-oh. Ng generate ng help. Let's see what we can do with this. Build. Here, let's get this out of the way. Try this again. Oops. Ng help. That's a little bit better. Ng set test serve new generate. Okay, what are the blueprints we can do? Ng help generate. No, that's not very useful, is it? Alright, well, when all else fails, you can always check the docs. cli.angular.io. Documentation. Generate. Class component directive enum guard interface module pipe service. Okay, so it looks like they probably removed the route option from that. That's okay. They'll probably bring it back later on. Let's not worry too much about that right now. We'll just go ahead and follow our guide here. So basically we go back to app module.ts. I'm going to close all this so that we can just have a fresh start. app.module.ts. And we have to, first of all, import from Angular/router, and we're going to be importing the router module. Basically what this means is that we'll be able to use routing in our app, and we want to import that here with the other things we're importing. So all of the external modules we're importing go right here. We're just adding router to the mix there. Now, well, that's interesting. I'm not exactly sure where they want this, so I'm just going to put it here. Router module dot for root, and we're going to say, okay, so when we have a path in the URL that matches heroes, then we're going to use the heroes component. Now, I think that it's generally good practice to put your router mappings into its own file. Let's see, so we got the imports declarations. And I'm just wondering where they put that. Oh, I get it. So put it there. That's interesting. So, but you can imagine that if we're going to put a ton of different routes in here, putting that here would be kind of weird. I think it's generally best practice to put your routes in a separate file, and then you can export it and import it here. We'll do that a little bit later. But we're running low on time, so let's just try to get through what they have here. So now, if you just go ahead and do heroes. Boom. We've got tour of heroes. Well, router should match it to the heroes route, display the heroes component. Let's see here. Heroes. And it's just taking us back to the main page. Interesting. Well, I'm not sure that that actually worked, but let's see. So basically what we need to do is we need to tell the router where to display the path that we're putting in here. So we're going to add a router outlet. So instead of hard coding this, we're going to do a router outlet. Okay. Now let's try heroes. Ah, now we have it. So our normal path, we don't have anything, but if we go to /heroes, then we have our heroes. This is what we want. So the router outlet basically is just defining wherever our route stuff gets put. So we wired this to the heroes component. We're going to just drop it right into there. Okay, so now we need to add some links so we can get there, because we don't expect our users to just type that in manually. That would be too painful. So we'll want to add a router link. And again, we're going to be in the HTML here. So we can say a router link, and we're going to assign that to heroes. Heroes. Now it's not liking me because it didn't like the slash. Well, let's try it like that. That didn't like that either. What if we remove that? Oh, now it's happy. So the auto-completion gave me the brackets, but we weren't supposed to have them. Let's see here. We click heroes, change the URL, and it populated. Awesome. This is looking good. Okay, so now, let's see, that worked. Okay, so now we want to add a dashboard. So we'll go back to the Angular CLI and we'll say ng generate component dashboard. Okay, so now we have our dashboard here. Let's go ahead and close this. And I'm just going to change that back to just normal dashboard. It may be better just to leave that prefix on there. I'm just trying to keep this as simple as possible here. So our dashboard view is completely empty. So let's just go ahead and put our dashboard route in here. We'll just add another one of these guys here, and this will be dashboard and dashboard component, because CLI already wired that in for me. That's nice. And we can add another router link that goes to dashboard. It's pretty much all the same as what we just did. Save that, and we've got our dashboard and our heroes. Yay! Okay. Now, let's see here. What we want to do is we want to make the dashboard be the default. So if someone just comes to localhost 4200 and does not have a route, we want to show the dashboard. So the way we do that is we've already created this dashboard route. but we want to create a default route. So path is going to be just empty string, and we're going to say redirect to /dashboard. And in order to make this work, we're going to say path match is full. So nothing after the slash. And now we see dashboard works. Cool. All right, now add navigation to the template. We already did that. Except for we want to wrap this, instead of just having a bunch of random router links, we're going to put it in a nav section. Nav is an HTML standard tag here. That's just a container for links and navigation stuff. So sticking that in there is great. We'll do more stuff later when we do CSS. Okay, so now we want to add heroes to the dashboard. So let's go ahead and create a file, or let's see, dashboard. Yep. Okay, so go to our dashboard component HTML. Instead of dashboard works, we want to put a list here. And whoops, man, I am not doing too good with copy paste this morning. There we go. So just copied that straight from what it says to stick into our dashboard component HTML. Now, obviously this is not working here, so that's interesting. So we'll want to reuse that hero service to get our heroes. So come back here. We'll want to import from ./hero .service hero service, and we'll also need the hero type as well. Okay, so that now gives us all we need there. We need to inject it just like we did before. Private heroes service of type hero service, and that will automatically add that there. On init, we're going to say this dot hero service dot get heroes dot then heroes goes to, we'll have to create a heroes property, heroes, that's going to be hero array, just like in the other place. This dot heroes equals heroes. So this should be exactly what we're doing on the other, except for not calling the slowly one right now. And here we go, our top heroes, and it's displaying that right in our dashboard. So going back to the dashboard component, now this should be happy with us. Okay, so we've got some classes here, the grid, the class module hero. Those aren't doing anything right yet because we don't have any CSS that is responding to that. But we are just displaying the hero name in an H4. Okay, so we did all that. Okay. But a little bit of a twist here. Instead of just displaying all the heroes, we only want to display the top heroes, which means we don't want to worry about the entire list. I'm just going to say, we're going to take the heroes and we're going to .slice, and that returns a section of the array. It's kind of like substring if you've worked with substring before, but this is working with arrays. Now we see that now we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 5 heroes. Start with index 0. We're going to go up to, but not including, number 5. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and define heroes array property. We've already done that. We did the slice. Okay, so now we need to be able to navigate to the hero detail. So what we want to do is when we selected hero, we want to create a route that will take us all the way to a selected hero. So we know here, when we go to heroes and we click on one of these guys, we'll get the details here, but we want to make it so that, and we already have the component that has the hero detail, we want to be able to navigate directly to that. So we're going to create another route. So going back to our app module, we're going to create another route. We'll do it before the default route because we don't want it to match anything else. We're just going to call it detail /:ID. So basically what that says is when you did detail and then you have an ID in there, it will go to the hero redirect. We don't want to redirect to. We want to do component hero detail component, and that should do it. Okay, so saving that. Now if we go to detail and we do 11, well, it didn't blow up. That's good. But it didn't really do anything yet. So we need to be able to make it so our hero detail component will display some more stuff here. Going back up to hero detail. Oops. Get rid of that breakpoint there. Our hero detail component, let's add the ID of our hero so that we can keep track of that. So we'll go ahead and stick that in there straight from the tutorial. And if we go back here and click on it, we'll have ID 12 and the name. Perfect. Okay. So another thing we're going to need to do though is be able to figure out what from the hero that is passed in the route, we need to be able to get that hero. Right now we're not getting anything. If we go to detail 11, it just gives us nothing, and if we look here, it's not giving us any errors, it's just not doing anything, which is unfortunate. So basically our hero detail needs to be able to know what it's being passed. So on init, basically we need to be able to say, hey, if this is coming to us from a route, init implements, just to make sure I did that right, on init. You don't actually have to put implements on init if you put ng on init, but this will make sure that you don't accidentally mistype it or something. Okay, so we need to pass in some things to our hero detail constructor that will tell it what we're doing here. So constructor, we're going to pass in a hero service. We'll have to import that. Service. Okay. Hero service. Okay, so we've got the hero service. We also need to get the route information so we can actually read that ID off of the URL that was passed to us. So we'll import from @Angular router, and we want activated route. So we're going to have that injected in as well. Private. Bring this down. Route, activated route. So have that injected, and then we also want to know where we are. Private location. Okay. Now it's not very happy with us about that. Could not resolve location. Okay, so that's something I needed to import. Yes, it's from Angular Common. Common location. Okay, so we have all of our stuff we're going to need to be able to load now. So in our on init, oh, and we'll also have to add in, let's see, did I miss anything else? So we'll also be adding in this import, import our rxjs / add operator. The autocompletion is not very useful at this point. Switch map. Don't worry about what that's for yet. It will be explained later. Okay, so now in our on init, we need to take a look at our route and our params. This is just going to be basically a key string gives us any. Now, if you remember back in our app module, we created a route parameter named ID. So if we grab ID off of that, oops, if we grab the ID off of our route params, oops, that should, in theory, give us what we need. Let's see what this is. X is any. Oh, but wait a minute, hold on. This isn't just a type that you index into and get. It's something called an observable. What in the heck is an observable? We'll get into that more later. For now, know that this won't work. What we have to do is we have to take our route params and we need to apply this switch map operator to them. And again, don't worry what this is doing because we'll step back later and talk about this and you'll understand a little bit better. So our params are going to go to this dot hero service. Now right now we just have get heroes and get heroes slowly. We don't have a way of getting a single hero. Let's do that. Get hero, and we have to pass it the params ID. So basically we're going to grab the ID off of there, stick it into there, and we'll be good. But then we're going to have to, since this is basically just mapping, turning this observable of parameters into an observable of heroes. So when those heroes come back, we're going to have to subscribe to them. Okay, so we've got some problems here. So type empty is not assignable to hero. That's great. We aren't doing get heroes, we're doing get hero, which doesn't exist yet. Let's go ahead and fix that right now. We'll just stub it out for a second. Get hero, and we'll want to pass in an ID of type number, right? And we'll just return a single hero. Okay, that won't work in practice, but it should get us a little bit further back here. Okay, so now it knows get hero, and it's saying type index number observable input. Hero is not assignable to observable input. Okay, well, obviously we're not doing this quite right. So we want our heroes to, or our hero service, instead of returning a hero, remember how we were doing promises with the others? Let's add promise to this. Promise of hero, promise dot resolve. Oh, okay, that should get us back. Hey, it's actually running now. That's good. Now, the problem, though, that we're going to see is when we pass in hero detail, this is actually going to be a string, this parameter. We need to turn it into a number, and the shortest way to do that is just adding a plus at the beginning. So that will force it to convert to a number. Another way you can do it is just do this, which I think is a little bit easier to read and understand what you're doing. You're just converting it to a number. Okay, still is not blowing up, but still is not giving us anything. Obviously, in our hero service, we have not actually resolved this. So instead of resolving to null, we want to say this dot get heroes, and then when we get those heroes back, heroes goes to, we want to basically scope it down to the single hero that we care about, which is the one with that ID. So we'll say heroes dot find h goes to h dot id equals id. And now we have 11 is showing Mr. Nice. Hooray! Man, that was a long journey, but we are ready to be done with that. Okay, so we're going to leave off at that. We're a little bit over time on this week. Next week, we're going to finish off this one, starting with the Find the Way Back on section 6. And we'll get into the HTTP, and this is really good stuff. I'm really excited. So I hope that next week you'll join me once again, and code along with me. I'm Joe Skeen. Thanks for watching.